crossing the United States to his native South Africa. Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face, break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. My name is Nolan Pillay, and I'm your host for today. And please remember to like and share our content on YouTube, Anchor FM, Apple Podcast, also Spotify, as this allows us to bring more valuable content to you because we care. Today, it's our pleasure and honor to welcome Lena Cebula to our show. Lena was born and raised in post-USSR Ukrainian iron mining town. She has struggled in poverty, trying to survive. She is a drug addiction and human trafficking survivor. And that's what we're going to talk a lot about today, because human trafficking has become like a norm and people tend to make it a norm these days. And we want to create awareness around this. Today, Lena is a wife, a mother of 3 beautiful children. She is also an author of a spiritual autobiography called Miraculous. It's raw and transparent account of her life, chronicles. Portion of the profit goes to fight for freedom to support survivors. How beautiful is that? That she's actually giving back and serving humanity as well. Lena is also a social justice advocate, a blogger, a professional public speaker, and host of Love&BLoved Podcast. Lena is sharing the good news of God's love and creating awareness about the reality of human trafficking. She also wants to move people with encouragement, inspiration, and motivation, and to offer hope that there is a chance to have love, joy, peace, and wholeness again after trauma. Once again, welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. Lena, it's our pleasure and our honor to have you here today. So, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. So let's get directly into us. Tell us a bit more about who Lena is and where your journey began, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And first of all, I would have never imagined that after 20 years of silence, I would be standing on stage in front of hundreds of people, but my story is going to be broadcasted all over social media. In the past, I was afraid of judgment and rejection. I thought my story was the story of guilt, shame, and condemnation. But now I know it's God's story of salvation, of overcoming adversity and thriving after trauma. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and about my past so you would understand where I'm coming from and where I am now and see this amazing transformation. So I was born and raised in Ukraine, and my parents struggled in their marriage. So they became an alcoholics and lost well-paid jobs. At our home, the government turned off the electricity and hot water for outstanding bills. I was hungry all the time. I was literally starving. Our home was infested with black mold, cockroaches, and mice. We struggled in poverty trying to survive. I was raised in a home full of strangers who brought booze and drugs, with parents who did nothing to protect me. So I became an easy target for those guys, and I was drugged and raped in the basement of my apartment numerous times. So when I thought things couldn't get any worse, 1 month before my 15th birthday, I woke up with severe abdominal pain, scared and confused, only to realize that I was in labor. I didn't know I was pregnant, and I didn't know who her father was. So my baby actually died 3 months later from health complications. And I buried her when I was 15 years old. I carried her casket to the cemetery in my arms, But for the next 20 years, that image has plagued my mind and my soul. So I start using alcohol and drugs to medicate my pain because I suffered with depression, anxiety, and panic attack. Later on, I turned to heroin because it was better to be high than feeling worthless, hopeless, abandoned, and so broken. So then years went by. I don't remember much. I just one day saw people dying around me and who went to jail. So I was desperate and in despair, and I was so tired of that lifestyle. So I wanted to change. But there is no hopes or dreams for people like me. And then from nowhere, I met this lady through one of my friends, and she brought me to her house and offered me fancy coffees and sweets. And she was kind and compassionate. And I was so impressed that somebody cared because I was a street junkie. And she actually like look at like a celebrity, and she was so good to me. And so I kind of like let my guard down, and she asked me, she actually offered me a job. She didn't say any specifics. She just offered me a job, and I agree, eager to escape. So, without much thought, I accepted, and her team went to work. So, still on heavy drugs. I vaguely remember airport and how I got through customs. I'll never know. It just one morning, I heard this Muslim call to prayer, Allahu Akbar, run out. So I actually was confused and terrified because I realized I'm not in my country anymore. So it took me a while to get it that that nice lady sold me into human trafficking into foreign country. So later on, I find out that I was in Cairo, Egypt, and I was forced to crawl under the barbed wire, crossing the border illegally, where they were sold us into brothels. And honestly, it was very important what brothel that you end up in because most of the girls who came with me died or went missing. So although it was horrible situation, but honestly, guys, if you already hear where I was coming from, it kind of was like upgrade for me because nobody was beating me, raping me, or like I even was able to make some money. But the best part, like in the brothel, one of my bodyguard shared the good news of God's love with me. So that was amazing because when my grandfather had heart attack, I actually went to Jerusalem and I pray like for safety, and God answered my prayer actually for my grandfather. And that's because now I'm woman of faith and I believe in God. But now I'm so amazed that that's where he met me and led me to grow that faith because I was alcoholic, drug addict, prostitute, like all the low, the scum of the earth in my eyes because I knew that people like me don't deserve mercy, don't deserve forgiveness. But God showed me his kindness there and showed me his miracles. But now looking back, I that's why my book called Miraculous, because I know that I should be dead million times over. So I'm so grateful that it's bizarre to say that, but I'm grateful for everything that I went through because I see the grace, I see miracles, and I hope and pray I can help someone to see that as well, that you're not alone, you're loved no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you are so loved. So that's some of my story. They actually, if I may say,
Yeah.
you really, in most cases, you would never leave this kind of situation alive unless you have been rescued by police or special forces or anything like that. But by the grace of God, I pay all my dues to them and they let me go home back to Ukraine. But my trustworthy aunt stole all my money that I was saving over the time. And another bodyguard who was like a brother to me cheated me like out of all of my possession that I accumulate for all that time. So I come back kind of to square one again. So I thought I would build a new life, but But after that, I felt so betrayed and I turned to what was familiar, so alcohol and drugs again. And then, actually, in that time, my city was totally overcome by drugs. So I became a number one drug dealer. Like I became his right hand, and I had unlimited amount of drugs, money, influence, but it wasn't safe because I knew I have to get away because I would die of overdose or possibly end up in jail or even being murdered. So I didn't know what to do. So second time from my home, I actually sold myself. That's all I knew. I sold myself into sex trade because my body was like everything I had. So I used it as a commodity. It was no precious or priceless to me. It was just a tool to get something like in exchange. But it's so bizarre how I was thinking that way. But that time, this is what I used to survive. So this time they actually brought me to Canada, and I saw an opportunity to start a new life because here in Canada, I was over like, I don't know, 23, like over 20 years old, whatever. That first time somebody told me that I have rights. Do you know my kids learning this in kindergarten that they have human rights? I was adult already. I didn't know I have human rights. So that's kind of startled me, and I'm start thinking. And I had a friend who helped me to escape. So I left and I lived in shelter, and then I got my first job. I'm started learning English because I came with zero English. Then I applied and graduated from cosmetology government credit school. So I became a hairstylist, and actually in 2011, I give my life to Christ and receive His grace and forgiveness. But I've been hairstylist for 14 years. Then 2 years I own my hair salon, and then I closed my business. I published my book, and now I'm speaker, a podcast host because I want to share my story. And while I was building my business, I was writing my spiritual autobiography to share my story because I didn't spoke about this for 20 years until that book been published. And I always thought like God want me to help someone, and absolutely I hope it's gonna help someone um to see hope. But honestly, it helped me because it was that burden, that secret that I carried because of the shame, guilt, and condemnation from my past life. So honestly, when I wrote that book, it's all like come out to light. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I love that book. I love that story. I love my life, and I love where I am now because now I can see before and after, and it's really exciting. And now I'm a mama. I have a beautiful marriage. Not with the, like, every time I say beautiful marriage, beautiful children, everybody think it's like so perfect. I didn't say perfect
Yeah.
because like, the kids, like who has like three kids, they know. If somebody say like they have perfect children, that's not true.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but yes, that's my story in a nutshell, and I'm so grateful that I'm here sharing it.
I am so I'm so grateful that you made the opportunity or the time to share your story. When you were relating that, I was actually getting teary because I mean I was just looking back at 15 years old and everything that you've been through, and for you to be alive speaking your story, I'm actually getting goosebumps. It's amazing. You know what? God was on your side, Lena. God was on your side all this time, holding your hands through all this. I don't know anyone who's gone through so much in life and that's actually here to tell the tale, especially where you're being shipped from your country into a foreign country and being woken up by the Mulana speaking in the morning. I mean, this is like so painful where you're away from your family. Worse, people that are close to you actually robbing you, like the aunt as well. I mean, taking away all your savings, and then the bodyguard friend as well. I'm actually grateful, and I hope you're still in contact with the guy that helped you the first time, because he actually helped you the way out as well. But I want to talk a little about this, Lena, because it's such a real topic, and people don't like to speak about things like this, yet it's the reality out there. Last night, I was doing some research of my own, and I just want to read out this research. It says to human trafficking, there's 30.2 million victims, and 75% of these victims are 18 years or older, and 25% are 18 and younger. So can you imagine the amount of kids that get human trafficked? And then I went on further to see, well, which is the country with the highest amount of human trafficking? And India was number one, followed by China, and then came Pakistan as well. And the common form here is around sexual exploitation. That's why a lot of the human trafficking gets, or human trafficking is done. And we know, right? I watched a movie the other day. It was called Trafficked. It was with Paula Patton. I'm not sure if you watched that documentary, but it's all about human trafficking and how she exposed a ring that was also somewhere in Canada, I think, where she exposed. But when I look at that, how the girls are kidnapped at parties, etc., and how they injected with drugs all the time just to keep them sedated and then abusing them. Who gives people the right to treat other humans like this is beyond me. Nobody gives them a right. And these people that are causing all of this harm, surely they got mothers, they got sisters, they got daughters, they got aunts as well. Why do they need to go and do this to other people as well? So, human trafficking is really, really a reality. I know one of the things I asked you is what's the common myth about human trafficking that you really want to debunk? Maybe let's get into that a bit more because it's a conversation that needs to be held.
Yes, absolutely. And so interesting though. This has happened to me now more than 20 years ago. But when I start speaking 3 years ago, it wasn't even as um like like it was awareness, because honestly, like now, so many amazing organization and people been working in the background on human trafficking all the time. But now finally we're talking about mental health, we're talking about human trafficking more through social media. And I'm so grateful that when I start speaking, I kind of got under that Me Too movement when the people start talking about the abuse, because everything like was swept under the carpet. It's not like it wasn't happening. It was happening to me a long time ago. But the fact like it was not available, not information, not people were speaking out. So I'm so grateful that now we are more vocal and we're looking into it, because I have people who never been like trafficked or never been um, going through this court. I have beautiful families, thank God, but they want to fight again injustice. So they still partner up with me. So they want to know all this. They want to know like all this more information. So it's really cool to actually know the truth, because there's so many myths and misconceptions there. And for example, this is I think like big one. We think that especially like what you just say, you saw a movie and the girls were kidnapped and drugged, but there's the huge part of the people who actually can be trafficked in their own home. So they don't have to be kidnapped or moved anywhere. They can traffic like and being abused like and make porn and stuff like that. And half of the time it's family and friends. We think the trafficker it's like somebody that they prey on, somebody they don't know. Most of the time it's family and friends. And then of course like big factor risk is dysfunctional family or substance abuse. That was for me as well. But our poor young children right now, through going through COVID, going through this discord in the world, some of them suffer with being lonely and alone and mental health, and try to figure out um, where they fit in this world. And that's what trafficking using too, to manipulate. Like, remember I told you this woman offered me coffee and sweets, and she was kind to me. She played on my heart because I agree to anything that she want me to do without even thinking that I gonna end up in another country. You know what I mean? And that's what they manipulate. And these people, actually, I just recently talked to this lady, and she said they have different when they approaching kids, or like, anyway, and it's another thing. I'm saying kids, but I'm telling you, the the beast of human trafficking does not discriminate, not against the race, not against the gender, not against the age. Honestly, anyone, like boys, girls, like anyone can get trapped in this. And very interesting that they actually create the persona when they like meet a person online or something like that. They create the persona, and they, for example, see, like, if they go, like, if they know already, that's one thing, but if they kind of um luring victim in, they actually create the persona. Oh, this girl looking for love because she posting these selfies of herself and like being wanna be beautiful, wanted, or desire, or something like that. So they create this Romeo, style. So it's like lavish with gifts and compliments and some stuff like that. And then they actually ask for something like, inappropriate. But when you're in love, you don't really think straight. Or same as like that time, like, and with me, like, you don't really think that something gonna happen bad because everything is so good. And that's what then they control with shame, guilt, and isolation when you're already trapped. But yes, definitely grooming, it's a big part of this. There is another myth I want to cover, Nolan, real fast, because that kind of when you were talking, what countries actually have like the biggest human trafficking. I'm in Canada right now, and lots of people thinking that it's not in Canada, and I'm telling you, it's everywhere. Maybe they have statistics, which country has more, but I'm telling you, where the people are, that's trafficking happening no matter what. So, and trafficking can be a sexual sex trafficking can be forced labor, can be just like with abusing that person human rights, that still goes under the trafficking as well. So
You're absolutely right, because if I look back at the term human trafficking, and it's exactly like you said, it could go back to the days of slavery as well. So personally, in my country, South Africa, that I am in, that's what actually happened, right? Because they used to bring Indian people from India, for example, via the ships and make them work as slaves here in South Africa, and that's trafficking, right? Because these people, anything that a person is lured into without their own consent is trafficking, in my opinion. And it's amazing. And you're so right about Canada. I read somewhere as well about trafficking in Canada, and it's on the rise. So, we got to protect our kids. We got to create more awareness out there as well and speak about this so that some intel is done in advance and we can get hold of these traffickers. And like you said, when it's done with somebody that you know, somebody that you trust, it is so difficult as well because you trust that person wholeheartedly, and this is what they turn out to be. I have a question on the lady that lured you in. Did you ever go back to find out who she was?
not really. Actually have honestly, I don't really remember much from like those times, because most of the time, like, I was so on drugs and trauma, and it was like really bad. I so no, I don't know even like if it's like gift or the curse, but honestly, I feel like those times like was really a blur, you know.
I can imagine because that's such a painful time as well. And I know you recently as well. We get to know each other. We follow each other on social. And I know you've done a lot of healing as well, because if you did not do the healing and the forgiveness, more importantly, you wouldn't be able to go in front of thousands of people and speak about your story as well. So I must say, I'm so proud to know you and to have you in my circle, that you've been through so much and yet you've grown through all of it as well. And this is a huge encouragement for people out there that don't know how to move forward. A lot of them feel stuck, right? And drugs is the biggest curse of this world. We experience so much of drugs in South Africa, and it's causing mayhem. It's causing so much of gang fights and everything. It's just ruining people's lives. When you sit back and watch this, it's just so sad. My sadness comes in play where, to me, it's like the government or the police system don't want to do anything, or they are part and parcel of this whole system. And I think it's a lot to do with the latter, right? Because if you look at the drug mafia bosses here, they surely are paying people so that the people don't go and touch them. And that's a sad state of the world that we live in.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on what you say. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for your kind words. And I want to just address everyone. Guys, like if you're listening to this and thinking like, oh yes, wonderful, she got there. It took me more than 20 years actually working on myself, like, and with God and with people and with therapies and with counseling. I always like very self-aware, and honestly, it just take time to heal. You just take time. Like you don't have to apologize as long as it's constructive, because the drugs is not constructive. It's just the illusion of healing. It just numb you for a while, but it's definitely not gonna get you in a healthy place. So find the constructive methods. Like, for example, write the journal. You don't have to write the book, but honestly, for 3 years, I just pour my heart to the paper, to my computer. So it helped me a lot to actually process everything, because guess what? The past is the past. Nothing I can do about it. I cannot change it. I cannot uh, relieve it. So I have to just let it be. But because I didn't deal with the past, it still was a burden. You have to look back. But I look back when I was already healed and loved and forgiven. Because it's very painful to go back when you're still in pain. So just try to, like, and if you don't say anything to anyone and you need help, the letter would help. If you write your pain, your shame, your whatever, like you think that it is, and find one person who you can trust and let them read it, and you're gonna see that you believe a lie that nobody gonna love you and accept you because you've done something. Because guess what, we all done something. We are not perfect, and I kid you not, since I start sharing my story, people just love me. And I was so like blown away, because I thought the people gonna reject me, and especially people who know me and love me for a long time, and I telling them this story, and you know what, nobody throws stones at me. Excuse me, nobody hated on me. But you know what, I honestly, this is for me too. Like, if somebody there doesn't understand that, I know this is their pain, not me. So when you gonna come out and share your story with one person, you don't have to go on a social media, you don't have to write the books, you don't have to go on stage. I feel I've been called, because this is like, honestly, this is doesn't have hold on me anymore. This year I'm talking about this and I smile and I'm joyful, because it brought me where I am now. So if you still healing, find that one person and let somebody like in to help. And then you're gonna see that you are loved, you are not broken, you're not damaged like by something that been done to you, or you been done something. We're all trying to just figure this life out. And sometimes that's the hand been dealt to us. So I just encourage you, right? And think, okay, it is what it is. It happened, but I can be better or do better because I'm still alive. Because until you give up on your life, like then you cannot do anything about it. But then small steps, every day is a new day. Just find hope.
I like that. And it's such solid advice, to everyone listening as well, because someone knows someone who's experiencing this in some way or the other. There's too many things going on. And I like the fact that you said, as much as you were the victim of it, you chose not to be the victim. You chose now to heal and now help others heal as well. And that's where the book Miraculous has come about. And I think I want to talk about the book a little because it sounds like it has the solutions for anyone that is going through this. So people that read this book can actually resonate with it and find out how to self heal in the process as well. So tell us maybe a few parts of the book, Lena. It's, the name alone means so much as well. Miraculous. It's absolutely amazing. So, firstly, tell us a bit more about the book and where can people get the book as well.
Yes, absolutely. And actually the subtitle is so title is Miraculous, but subtitles My Journey from Hell to Heaven. And because I'm woman of faith, and when I learned that, some people believe that heaven is somewhere after we die, or you watch these movies or have that belief that it's only after death. But if you live long enough in this life, you know that we are suffering here and some people live in hell here. So I definitely have to testify to the fact that I live in hell. I mentally, physically, everything, like, yeah, it was a torture. And very interesting though, because I do believe God called me to write that book because I did not want to share my story. Because when I was marrying my husband, I asked him when we dated. I was thought it's never gonna be serious, so it was okay. But when he proposed to me, I actually wrote him a letter, 6 pages letter. Actually, I was like, because I chose not to lie to my husband since day one. And I give him this letter because I want him to choose to marry me or not, because I would not marry me. So I thought like it's okay to like date and fall around one thing, but marriage, it's I want him to know who he's married. But he actually didn't read that letter. He said, whatever it's in the past, it's between you and God, but I just love you for who you are now. So he said, rip that letter off, burn it, like, I don't care. So I was leaving because the rest of the people, like, nobody knew who I am. And I become that new persona. I started going to church. I am cooking. I have my hair salon. That time is hairstylist. I'm mom. I'm bubbly. I'm funny. So when you don't share your story, nobody know who you are, really. When you don't tell people who you are, they just see what you let them to see. And what they see, it's the family, normal, everybody looks okay, and the kids taken care of, and mom like part of all these activities too, and everything's look good. And then one time I went to, I do believe it was 2015, when I heard through few people came to me, and that's how I hear a voice of God. Sometimes like I have the same message through different people, through different sources. So three different people in the same day came to me and said to me, you should write the book about your stories. Because honestly, guys, if you still didn't get that I'm talking, so like I love to talk and I always talking, and that's how I am everywhere. But yes, and I share my stories, but it's never been stories about my past, because I was thinking past, it's like almost like the Bible, before Christ and after Christ. So everything I just locked it away and I pretend that it didn't happen, and throw out the keys. But then I start thinking that why would I share my story, and how would I write the book? And literally, like, I have people coming into my life saying, "That's how you write the book. That's the book should be about." I'm like, okay, so I guess I gonna write the book. And it's so interesting though, because there's image on this book. This is actually my own jewelry, because I had this image in my head, and this necklace my friend gave me for the wedding, and the maple leaf, and I took so many pictures, and then only one actually got to publisher. But I have like this image in my head how the book should be looking, and the colors, and I'm just like in love with this, not because it's beautiful book and I love it and I wrote it. That's not the part of it. But when I start writing, I cry so much, but I realized there is no pain. And it was very surprising to me, because that's why I didn't want to look back, because I was afraid of that pain, to relive in that pain. But in amazing way, when I already have my own family, when I have my children, when I have a struggle of being wife and mother and housekeeper, I actually could understand my mother better, and accepts and hating her for 20 years, because I hate her for everything that happened to me. But I actually saw broken people who had no mental or physical energy, or no resources actually care for the kids the way I want to be cared. And then I start thinking, so I start having more compassion on her rather than hate, So now, because I have a new perspective, because now I'm a wife and a mother. And it was so interesting that I started asking me, if my husband would be like this, if my country would be like this, if my home would be like this, would I be the mother that I am now? And it's make me think, and it's actually make me reconcile with my family, with my father, my mother, and my family, and actually love them, not for what they did to me, but for who they are. They just people who were suffering. So if you have like empty glass, how can you pour something for anyone else if you have like nothing for yourself? So that's definitely what helped me. I think writing your life out, you can look into the past from the new perspective, because when you're in pain, there always gonna be tons of negative emotions, blame, hate. I literally hated my parents. I never want them to die or anything like that, but all of my like all of my trouble, I put it on them, because I had no solution, other solution in my. But now I see that I was the part of that as well. So I take responsibility for my action, and I forgive them. And then I have to forgive myself too, because that Lena was broken too and messed up. And like, she was the product of her environment too, so she made those choices. But still, that little Lena become the woman I am today because of those choices, and God saved me and didn't allow me to die. So that's kind of all coming together. So yeah, definitely writing helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said as well, right? Because you had to go through your own healing first, and now, while you went through your healing, you did understand that your parents also had to do their healing within themselves, and obviously they were not taught all of this growing up, right? They could have parents that were not there for them. They felt all alone, etc. Like how you felt all alone. Your parents were not there. So it just happens, and each one of us need to dig within ourselves and acknowledge that we do play a role in whatever is going on in our lives, and start working on healing from there, right? Because when you healed in this process as well, you found that you could love yourself again. And when you found that, how much more easier it was for you to love your husband and your children as well. Because if you
And
were
you know
there,
what's interesting, Nolan? I just want to point it out, because you guys, I want you to hear this. My mother never apologized or acknowledged anything that was going on. And I still have to learn to let that go, because my forgiveness, it's not for her. My forgiveness, it's actually for me. So I give that freely to them, and it's took the burden of hate from me. So I have to love her for where she is, who she is, and maybe she never gonna say sorry. So I'm still learning to build relationship with her and just realize she is who she is, and I'm never gonna change her. But my point is to change me so I can be in peace.
And you can be the better person as well, right? Because that's the most important, is to heal yourself. And I have some kind of I actually think that your mom at some point, we don't know when, but she will come and apologize at some point. She's gonna reach some realization. She's watching you, and when she watches you, she's gonna say, wow, this really is my daughter, and I was not
Oh
there.
no, you know what? What interesting, she does say that. She even say stuff like "I love you," and it took me a while to get that like one. Oh, she sometimes saying like "I'm so proud of you," and it's striking, and I have to work through that too. But she does not acknowledge the past, so she's like almost like she move on, and I kind of like I had a moment that hinder me, but then like I start talking to my husband, and he said, "Well, if she gonna like beg you for forgiveness, would you forgive that?" I don't think so, because it's not gonna change the past. So you have to move on, no matter like if that other person say yes or no, whatever they decide, it's just like not gonna make like really any difference. It just was so bizarre for me, thinking like, wow, there's no acknowledgement and she move on, but I acknowledge and have to move on. You know what I mean? So that, just want to make sure, if you guys expecting somebody like to apologize or to say sorry for what they did, if they never do, it's still good to just let go, because it's on them, not on you.
Yeah,
You need to heal yourself and be in
absolutely.
peace.
No, you're so right, because it is really on her. And when she chooses to say, okay, I'm sorry, then it'll make her get peace within herself, because you've passed that stage a long time ago. So you've reached that conclusion a long time ago. So that's quite important for the viewers as well. Whatever you are going through in your life, you need to heal from within and move on with your life, because nobody's going to come and live that life for you. You got to take responsibility and accountability for it as well. There's so much, and I still want to touch on your podcast as well, because I know I think I want to go into your podcast a bit. Tell us a bit more about what your podcast is really all about. I think it's quite important, uh, because we'd like to help you along the way as well, and it's good to understand what it's about. What's the main purpose of your podcast as well?
Thank you. Yes, when I start sharing my story, I had people coming to me and sharing theirs, because they were just trusting me after I open up. And then lots of people start inviting me to share my story on a podcast as well. And I start having those thoughts like, oh, I can do that too. I love to showcase other people's stories as well, because I want to show people that we are not alone, and those people who do speak out, maybe somebody they're listening and they can resonate and think, okay, if this person brave enough to say that, maybe can I, because that's what happened for me. I saw one of the preachers called Joyce Meyer. She was talking about her sexual abuse like since she was like 3 years old, and then she forgave her father. I'm like, how this person can do that? And that's what actually make me look and think, if she can do this from stage, I definitely can tell my friend. That means like again, and then I thought, if she can heal to this point that she can take care of her father before he's dying, after everything he's done, and actually feel that it's a blessing, I'm like, how did she get that? So I want those stories to come out, because it's so much shame, pain, guilt, trauma that we can get stuck in. So when I created Love and Beloved, I want people to see hope. I want them to see people overcoming adversity. And I'm talking about mental health, abuse, um, trauma in general, sexual trauma as well, the human trafficking. But then after a while, um, I was thinking, why wouldn't I bring the people who are actually fighting against human trafficking? So I have some social justice advocates. I have police officer who fights against human trafficking. I have so many amazing organizations that do so much good in the world, and I bring them as well so they could advocate and create awareness and give the practical advice and help people to um, give the advice if they need anything, to find the collaboration, or it's the survivors, or it's the people who would like to be activists. So it's almost like my dream job. I want to bring people together, so I am that link between organizations and people. And so everybody together move to make this world a better place. And that's what I do believe we all created to love and be loved. And there's so many good people, and we're so resilient. It's sometimes like when we concentrate only like on fear, anxiety, depression, trauma, all that stuff. Like sometimes it can be overwhelming, but I want to show hope. I want to show how many people fight against injustice, how many people want to help other people. And I just want to again to say that you're not alone. If you need any help, you can find it, So that's why I created my podcast.
I like that, and it sounds so purposeful as well. And I'm sure you love what you do. I can feel the energy in your voice, and the message that you want to get across as well. What can we do to help spread more news about your podcast and the message you are bringing to the world?
Yes, absolutely. By the way, the book Miraculous you can find on Amazon, amazon.ca or amazon.com, but you have to type it Miraculous by Lena Cebula. And definitely you can like education is the key, because then like when you know what you're looking for, you actually can help and address that. You can do fundraiser for human trafficking, you can volunteer, advocate, hold the awareness. A part of my book gonna go to fight for freedom, but now I'm part of this amazing organization. It's international as well, called Zonta. You actually guys look that up, because it's fighting for human rights, and especially for women. And this year its slogan, make the better world for women and girls. So they're fighting against the child marriages and for equality. So it's really, really good organization. So I actually donate some of proceeds of my book this month to them as well. And you can check out my podcast. Definitely, there are over 60 episodes. You can follow me on social media. There's so many links, but if you Google Lena Cebula, you can find me. So
Wow.
definitely.
No, thank you. And you raised an important point towards the end there about child marriages as well. That is some kind of that's another form of human trafficking if you think about it, right? Because these children don't want to get married at the age of 12, 11, 12, and stuff like.
Yeah,
But
and it's human rights issue. They
yeah,
doing something against their will. So
yeah, it's a serious concern, but it's something we must pick up at some point as well. But Lena, thank you so much for sharing with us. So inspiring. I'm so grateful that you are here to tell your story, and more so, you've now made it into a safe space where you want to help other people by sharing your story. And I'm just grateful that you are speaking up as well. Life is not about just going through some certain things in life and keeping quiet about it. Yeah, you are such a nice, bold voice that wants to get the message across. So I salute you for all the work that you're doing. And I'm really grateful that you came onto our show, Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan today. Any last tips for our audience? Any last words for them?
well, I actually want to leave you with this quote. Is it, if it's okay? It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear, it's not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our own light shine, we give other people permission to do the same. So my light shines bright these days. Now it's time for you to shine yours upon the world too.
Wow. Very well said. Powerful beyond measure. So, to everyone listening, just comprehend those words. You are powerful beyond measure. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise because you are in control of you and you need to take ownership for who you want to be. So, thank you once again. So, thank you to everyone for listening to our show today. It's really been an honor and a privilege to have Lena Cebula with us today as well. Like she said, if you want to find out more from her, go on to Amazon and look for her book, Miraculous, and put in her name as well. You'll find it. Look up her podcast, Love and Be Loved. And also, if you want to connect on social media, just Google Lena Cebula and you'll be able to find that. We will share her contact details at the end of the show. And also, be sure to like this podcast, comment on it. Our handle is Straight Talk with Nolan, and share it with as many people as possible. You never know who is ready, waiting to listen to this podcast. You never know until you share it, and they will come back to you and say, thank you so much for sharing that podcast with us. So thanks once again, Lena. It's really been an honor to have you with us today. And I'd like to wish you and everyone a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.